recap on the journey they took this past couple months. So we're going to start off with Mr. Nosar. Mr. Nosar, your first couple stops. How was everything?
Well, okay. So it started out. I bought the camper off of Jeff Isham's mom, and I had to meet Marcus, who was kind enough to bring me the camper in Nashville, Tennessee. So really, my trip started outside Nashville, Tennessee, and then from there, we took about an 8-hour trip up to Michigan. My very first stop was in St. Clair. I mean, it was Lake St. Clair, which was incredible. It was the way to get the trip started. And my very first angler I met, I mean, it was a powerhouse, was Eric Polenz. If you don't know St. Clair, it's literally in the middle of Detroit. I mean, I was kind of taken back because you look at the lake and you think of it, as this. I mean, it's a world renowned lake. I mean, for smallmouth fish and everything else, but it is so tucked into an urban environment. You can't get that out of your head. You think that this beautiful lake is out in the middle of the woods in Michigan, and it's not. It's right outside Michigan or outside Detroit. And so met Eric. We launched out, and Eric was tremendous. I mean, it couldn't have been any better. The guy is one heck of a fisherman. I had no idea really what we were looking for, what we were doing. I mean, the lake has very, very subtle movements and very, very, very subtle depths. And Eric showed me what to do, and he was beating me for every fish I was catching. He was catching 3 of them. It started out. It was it's just disgusting how great a fisherman he is. And he kind of showed me some baits and things around that he did and he does, and shared some baits and stuff like that. And so once we started kind of getting on that, I catching a few here, catching a few there, and then towards the end of the day, caught some nice ones. In the 18s. Yeah, I think it was I think I caught a 19 and a quarter, if I'm not mistaken. It was pushing 19. So anyway, great, beautiful day on the lake, and scarily enough, I was kind of comparing, the scenery to, the lakes I fished to, or where I fished in before, and St. Clair reminded me exactly like the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, completely freshwater, saltwater difference, but the surrounding area with the sailboats and the catamarans and all that stuff, it was very, very similar to the Chesapeake Bay, and how there's subtle drop-offs and stuff like that. So it felt very, very comfortable in the water there. I mean, it was a little bit, it was choppy. We maybe had two footers, two 3-footers at most, but very, 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 very comfortable in the water. And Eric was wonderful. And so it started off the trip was amazing. The campground was great. And then we made it up to the UP of Michigan after that. So that in itself was an adventure. Crossing the Mackinac Bridge with your camper, it was definitely a daunting task. I mean, it's 199 feet up in the air. It's not for the squirmish, man. It's definitely an adventure. That whole bridge is amazing. I mean, and I think that's where Lake Michigan and I think Ontario. I can't remember where the lake it is. Lake Ontario. I think that's where those two lake meets. And Lake Michigan, you drive across Route 5, and you follow Lake Michigan all the way around to the UP, and got to fish with Jonathan Pepin and Alex Dolliver, and Matt Linsman stayed with him. And I'll tell you, man, those guys, incredible camaraderie. I enjoyed my time tremendously up there. The mosquitoes were a joke. The mosquitoes, I mean, the mosquitoes were unbelievable. The campground was average, at best. I wish I would have definitely taken Matt up and stayed in the hotel with them. I should never have gone to the campground there. The campground it wasn't the best, but the surrounding area, I mean, absolutely gorgeous up there. I think Lake Superior was where we first came out of and kind of saw and did some lives and stuff like that. But gorgeous, man. Summer in Michigan, what they say, is just infamous, especially up in the UP. It's everything that you'd ever imagine. So I highly recommend you go up there. And one thing I was shocked about was the largemouth fishing up there. You think of UP in Michigan, you think of, you think of salmon, smallmouth, trout, all that stuff. But I mean, Matt got on some got on some largemouth up there for sure, and taught him some things. He taught me some things. But I had a wonderful time up there, man. And I highly encourage you guys, go up there and fish with those guys. They love fishing. They love the outdoors. And you can't think of any just more hospitable people up in the UP of Michigan. It was amazing.
Yeah, I know the mosquitoes. I've seen them up in the north. With being a driver for so many years, and theirs are big, but I think we got them in numbers down here in Florida. Florida will swoop in and carry you off.
Well, I tell you, man. I mean, literally. I mean, we're fishing this lake in the woods, and I opened my door for not even 5 seconds, and 50 mosquitoes flew into my truck. And for the remainder of the week, I'm killing mosquitoes trying to get it out. I mean, but that's just the way it was. I mean, it's like, you spray yourself with bug spray. They're like, we eat that crap for breakfast. It's like,
yeah. Florida the same way. You open up the door, they bombard the inside of it. You come back at the end of the day, and it's 140 degrees inside the truck, and they're just flying around, just waiting for you to get in.
Oh yeah, they're sucking my blood, flicking me off. You know what I mean? It was, some of them called me out by name. It was crazy, man. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing's freaking amazing. And Matt's sitting here going, la 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 la. I'm like, like this is crazy stuff, man. But yeah, it was crazy. But I'll tell you, man, it was a trip. It's so beautiful up there, man. I mean, it's hard to describe. It reminds me a lot of Scotland. When I went to Scotland, I went to Scotland 2 years ago, and it's very, very similar to the scenery of Europe. Very European, very German-esque, or Swiss-esque, and it's just a different world up there. It really is. But the people is what make it. And as I said, the people that we fished with, who are part of the KBBT community, man, it was like being treated like royalty, man. It was great.
Nice. All right, let's jump over to Marcus real quick. You get the phone call from Greg. I bought me a new camper.
Yeah, it kind of went like this.
Now your road trip.
It kind of went like this. He goes, "Hey, I bought a camper," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, that's awesome." And he's like, "Well, there's one problem." I'm like, "What is it?" "It's in Dallas." Me being a blonde head, red beard. Okay. "Oh, you need me to get it for you?" "Yeah, sure, no problem, no problem." So I go grab it from Dallas, and I bring it back to the house, and it was cake. Took it to Nashville, where I got to meet Greg for the first time, and it kind of started there. And after that, I was like, dude, I can't wait to get on this road trip. So we meet up in Arkansas to start things out. Of course, I was still at work, but we fished the Dink Fest of Lake Ouachita for a couple days, and Ouachita is one of those lakes. It's so beautiful, but at the same time, like, the big fish just don't seem to cooperate ever, which they didn't for us either. But I met up with him in Texas 2 days later. We started out in East Texas, got to fish with Jason Campbell, Jason O'Brien. The Jason and Jason connection is what I called them. And me and Greg straight up said, look, we'll take you boys on your home state waters. We fished Lake Gilmer. And me and Greg just put a smack down on the Texas boys, and but Jason Campbell did bump out a 7-pound, 12-ounce bass on us, but it wasn't enough to bring them to the top. Me and Greg just put the whooping on them. Then after that, me and Greg were able to get on some of the best frog fishing I think I'll ever have. It was Destination X, but it was unreal.
You'll never see. I've been fishing a long time. You'll never see a night like we had in that amount of time, and the fish that me and you both caught jointly ever again. It was incredible.
I guarantee you, we caught 50, 60, maybe even 70 bass in 2 hours. Greg was at 96 3/4. I was at 99 3/4, all within 2 hours. And that doesn't even explain. I mean, it was they were hitting it so hard you didn't have to wait to set the hook. If there was a blow up, go ahead and jerk. And we're just slamming them, and it's starting to get dark. And Greg hooks into one. It's like, oh my God, it's a monster. And I'm sitting here watching it, and I got to see, there's no reel, and his rod's just bowed. His kayak's getting pulled through the grass, and all of a sudden his reel goes whack. It straightened the reel seat out, pulled the reel out of the reel seat. Had to have been a double-digit bass. It got off after that happened. Yeah, guaranteed. I was able to hammer out a 7-pounder right at dark. And then we left the fish still biting because it was dark and the mosquitoes came out, but it was unreal. And then the next day we got to join up with Matt and Charner, and they took us out to their honey hole. And I mean, it was just, Greg wasn't able to get on it because he had a problem with his kayak, had a hole in it, had to be safe. But we show up at this spot, and I'm talking about in 2.5 hours, I had a Zara spook just completely destroyed. I mean, between the three of us, all of us had 5-pounders. I pulled out another 93 1/4, I think it was, in 2.5 hours. But it was just boom, 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 all the way until from 9:30 to 12. Then we got to go to Delgado's house, and the camaraderie there and the treatment that we got was just surreal. I mean, you wouldn't have thought we were strangers.
Yeah, that's a story in itself.
Greg's got pictures of Marcus passed out on tequila. I mean, it was unreal, the treatment that we got. You wouldn't have thought that we were tournament hosts, or you wouldn't have thought we were anything but family. And it was like that the entire way through the trip, whether we were in Texas or Louisiana, it didn't matter. Everywhere we went, it was just the love that we got shown was the incredible. The stories, the fishing is what it is. So that's the best I ever had in my life. But at the end of the day, that's not the part you necessarily remember. You remember the part of, me and Greg are both passed out in the camper swapping meme stories out, fighting a meme war with each other.
George Delgado, Chris's brother, is the best bartender I've ever seen in my life, man. The guy is amazing. You know what I mean? But it was insane. Before we get into the Texas deal, I want to talk about after I left Michigan real quick, if you don't mind, because I want to pay these guys some due respect. I went down to Illinois right before that. Got to meet Patrick Pooty Tharp, and went to a cornfield lake in the middle of nowhere. It was my stupid mistake. I thought he was in Decatur, and I went to I can't remember the town, but it was about 3-4 hours away from where he was at. So he was nice enough to meet me in the lake in between. We wound up not catching anything. I mean, we blanked out the entire day. It was ridiculous. We fished every portion of it, but
that can sometimes be the best days, though. You get to sit and talk and everything else. I mean, catching a fish is one thing, but
we did
the camaraderie. And
exactly. I'll be honest with you. The fishing was secondary on this trip. I mean, the people have been amazing, and but got to meet and got to see, the Illinois River, which was beautiful, and it was tremendous. I mean, a beautiful area, gorgeous. Illinois. I was in Peoria. And beautiful campground. It was right on the river there. But anyway, left out of there, went to Iowa, and all I'm going to say about Iowa is this: when you hear camaraderie, and when you hear about the brethren, Jordan Westerman took a lot of time off to basically chauffeur me around, and I fished with him. I think I was there for like 3 days or 4 days, and he was there for just about every day. But that guy right there, man, just spent so much time with me and showed me the ropes. And when I say he's a big bass, big bait thrower, dude, legit, all he was throwing was like 10-inch swim baits and just knocking the crap out of these fish, man. And it's not like Iowa fishing is a bunch of small public ponds and lakes that are there. But and they have to drive like an hour and a half to get anywhere they want. But it was unique. I got to stay outside Des Moines, but it was very, very every lake and every pond was different. I remember going over to our very first lake the day I got there, fish with Tommy Thompson and Jordan Westerman, and we had to go down this like little hill. Not little hill, it was a hill to get into this pond, fish there, and then it's great going down, but when you fish, and out in the middle, and you're fighting the heat because it was hot. It was like 100 and 100 degrees, 105 degrees or whatever, and then you got to drag yourself out of the lake and go up this straight up hill to go fishing, man. I mean, it's just dedication, man. But I've one of the things I remember is after we went fishing there, Jordan and I went out to dinner. It was like, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in this Mexican restaurant outside Newton, Iowa. And the reason why I remember that is because it was at the Iowa Speedway. And Iowa Speedway, we were the very first stock car ever on Iowa Speedway in Newton, Iowa. So it was kind of like reminiscing, going back there. But we sat there and talked. We probably talked for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours that night. And we had to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning and go fishing the next day. But the stories we told, I laughed so freaking hard just listening to the stories that he was telling about what they were doing, man. It's just incredible. But I had a great time. And I'll be honest with you, I learned more, I think, about fishing and the fishing techniques in Iowa than anywhere I've ever gone. And I'm serious when I say that. I watched Tommy Thompson take a DT6 and work wood like I've never seen anybody work wood before. I mean, he was bouncing this DT6 off wood like it's no big deal. And he was just crushing fish left and right. And I, kind of put that in a mental note. And then I was just watching Jordan with the swim baits and everything else. It really kind of opened my eyes to see what they do. I watched Mason Good, who's in the Final Four, take the same bait that I fish with, a rage bug, take the freaking weight off of it and not Texas rig it, just put it as a weightless rage bug, same color, same bait, and catch twice the amount and double the size bass I was catching. And I was right in front of them. So it's just those subtle things that you learn help you. I mean, it's just no doubt. And so, just kind of making nothing up. But those guys, man, I got to meet Gary Stevens and his brother Nick, and then Tim Gurley and all those guys. Just awesome trip. Then from there, went down to Kansas, stayed in Kansas City, had one of the best barbecue freaking meals I've ever had in my entire life. The guy, I mean, the small little area I was staying in, little restaurant I went to, gave me this box of food. It was just for me and my dog. But, I mean, it was just, a whole family could freaking eat this thing. And just so hospitable. And got a chance to meet up Richie, McNasty, McMichael, and Joe Douglas and Shad Schaefer down there. And we got our butts kicked. I mean, the wind was blowing 30 to 35 miles an hour. But again, it's just the subtle things that you learn. I had off camera just picking Richie's brain. I mean, why would you not ask Richie about what he does? And I sat there and saw myself. Shad throws in a chatterbait on the bank. I throw in a square bill, okay, and then Richie McMichael throws in a 6 cents crankbait. We're all in the same area, back to back to back. Richie catches a 6-pounder, and Shad and I get nothing. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, I guess we just warmed him up. But I mean, it's just the subtle nuances. I mean, 3 different baits, but I guess just the way he fished it, or the type of fish, the type of bait that he used. Busted 6-pounder right in front of us. It was incredible. And I watched him throw, horny toads. I mean, it was just incredible watching, how if Richie doesn't stay in one place at one time, and he throws a multitude of baits, and he finds a pattern, and then he winds up fishing that pattern. And I learned, don't get so hard-headed on this bait's going to work at this certain time. His whole freaking kayak was packed full of different baits, and he was fishing, not only top water, but he was fishing the water column, and just watching him work it. I mean, again, making mental notes on how about going about doing it. Had an awesome conversation with Joe Douglas about his life. If you want to know what trial and tribulation is all about, and how to overcome adversity, and how to overcome, basically any excuse that you want in the book, become somebody, you talk to Joe Douglas, man. I was fired up. I was listening to him and what he does and how he does things with people. and what he does with the youth and everything else. I'll tell you, it's inspiring. And I was just like, man, I could, again, learning life lessons from this guy about never giving up and never using excuses on, as a result, man, it was incredible. Just talking to them. And then, again, going out to where, to Arkansas, and this is where we kind of, meet up here with the story, going out to Arkansas and picking up Marcus, who I've never met. I mean, the only way I've met was virtually. And I'll tell you what, we've become like, it's like, you ever seen Step Brothers? That's exactly what this trip was like. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude.
It was crazy. But what Marcus didn't tell you when we met up, the other Step Brothers, Matt and Charter, is you go to this lake and it's a straight drop off, literally like a 60-degree angle. Yeah, 60-degree angle down off this bridge. You got to take your kayaks down to. So we wound up doing it. And then I'm walking back to my truck and I'm talking on the phone. I'm trying to do some recording, and I slip and fall straight off this thing. I was just bouncing all the way down to my kayak, and just like my back was just tore up. I mean, I was hurting, man, and my back was spasming, and my kayak is leaking. And these guys are like sending me pictures of these 6-pounders, like it's nobody's business. Like, look at what you're missing. I'm sitting there, I'm getting my butt kicked. My back is killing me. Like,
So,
I'm like,
somebody call 911.
I'm like,
he went down with a thud. And when I say like potentially shook the bridge, I'm talking about this dude hit so hard, all you hear is pap. I'm like, I'm okay. Whoa.
I'm like, okay, let's go fishing, guys. And I'm telling you what, about
I thought he was done.
Yeah, about
noontime. I thought that was
a
wrap for the trip.
Yeah, no, about noontime, I started feeling it. But again, champions never quit. And so we kept on fishing. But I mean, like they were talking about, they tore it up like none other at the dam, throwing spooks. And, Marcus showed me his spook after it was all said and done. It looked like a bluefish just destroyed the spook. I mean,
it was red. It's unusable.
Brand new spook looks like a vintage collectible.
Yeah,
it looks like it went through like a steamroller, like just whomp. It's just crushed. It's offset, so it's got like 2 different levels.
Yeah, I think from the fishing standpoint, no question, East Texas was the best we've experienced. I mean, I've experienced on the trip. I mean, fishing wise, East Texas hands down won that outright. But going back to the Delgado time that we spent with him and Jeff Isham and Tim Redmond and all those guys that we met down there, and Silas Garrett and Marcus, go into the time that we went and fished Fairfield.
Oh, dude! So look, we get to Fairfield, and you got to remember, like this is the night that I had been drinking tequila, so I'm just like, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't even go into the camper until like 2. And so, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. We're all driving to Fairfield. Somehow or another, I've got like a 30-minute advance on Greg and Chris. I don't even know how that happened. Can't remember. But so we get to Fairfield, and as soon as I roll up, and I'm 30 minutes ahead of them, it's like starting to drizzle rain. Well, by the time Greg and Chris gets there, it's like starting to drizzle a little more rain, and then it quits. And Greg's like, yeah, I'm going to be behind you guys. So me and Silas, we take off. Chris a little bit behind us. And then as soon as I turn around and go, where's Greg? Everything just starts coming down. I'm talking about it was just like dumping on us. And I was like, good Lord, thunder, lightning. So we, me, Silas, and, we're noticing down the lake, it was just like these giant crawfish were coming out of nowhere. We didn't pay no attention. We were throwing them at each other, throwing them in each other's kayaks, like 3 teenage guys would do. And we get back to fishing. Well, the fishing wasn't that great. I caught like 2 or 3. Silas caught 3 or 4. I think Chris didn't catch any or caught 1 or 2 small ones. When we get back I was the first one back at the boat ramp. And, Greg's up there, and there's just crawfish everywhere you look in the parking lot. And I'm like, Greg, do we have anything to put these in because we were been wanting a crawfish boil and it was out of season. Well, he hands me a freaking like broken live minnow bucket, and I just start whatever. I just start like we filled it up in 10 minutes. I'm like, Greg, I don't have any other room. And he pulls out this plastic bin. I'm like, yes. We got flooded in to Fairfield. The road was flooded. We couldn't leave.
The bridge was flooded out.
So for 3.5 hours, we did nothing but collect giant crawfish. We filled this tub almost to the top, got like 60, 70 pounds of crawfish. And they said the roads are clear. And Greg leaves and Silas leaves. And me and Chris are still picking up crawfish. And we're like, we should leave. So we finally left. And like 15 minutes down the road, they closed it again. I'm like, if we hadn't left when we left, we'd have been stuck back there. Well, we get 70 pounds, 60, 70 pounds of fresh caught crawfish that we caught out of a parking lot with our hands.
They were huge. I mean, literally from claw to claw. They were just like out like this. It was monster crawfish. But yeah, I mean, we were dodging. It was a storm that just would not leave. It was like 7 hours of a storm of lightning flying everywhere. That's why I couldn't get on the water because I had my dog with me, and Oshi would not get out of the truck and go on the kayak. And so yeah, I'm just like, whatever, guys. You guys can do whatever you want to, but. Man, that was incredible. And we went back and cooked them up, and again, just had a big old party over at Chris's house. And again, it's a memory I'll never forget, man. It was again not about the fishing, man. It was about the adventure, and it was very adventurous. And again, that's when Jeff Isham, if you've never met him in person, just dude, an amazing guy. Tim and all these guys, man. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Silas Garrett's built like a fullback. I didn't realize how big this dude is. He's had a couple of Texas steaks in his life. That dude is a monster, So, I mean, just you never know how big they are, or how big people are or small people are until you meet them. But yeah, I mean, it was cool, man. And then after that, we went to Louisiana, right?
We went to Louisiana. Marcus was, drinking shark bites at Joe's Crab Shack as soon as we got there. But the only problem with Louisiana was great, but the problem was it was 108 degrees in the camper, and Greg just so happened to leave my air conditioner side closed while his was full speed. So he was getting all the air and I was getting no air. And then he's like, at 8 o'clock at night, he's like, "Oh, I forgot to turn your side on." I'm like, "Thanks, thanks, Greg."
It was hot. It was hot.
It was hot.
Yeah, my experience on Caddo. Thank you again, Jamie Broad, for fishing with me. And I met him. I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning on Caddo Lake, and it's everything that you imagine. It's very picturesque. Cypress trees. You're fishing the knees of the cypress trees, but man, I tell you what, you couldn't overcome the heat. I mean, I think we left the water. It was the tournament day. It was actually our first round of the tournament. And, I was fishing a guy, Dave Massey, here on my home water. And I was like, yeah, this is in the bag. I'm fishing Caddo. He's fishing here in Stafford. Virginia hasn't been fishing well. And I'll be honest with you, man, we could not overcome the heat. There's very little fish to be found. When it gets on, like, Bobby, when it gets up to 115 degrees, 120 degrees, in terms of, with humidity, and that felt like 115 to 120 degrees, those fish ain't going to bite, man. I don't care what you do. I don't care how slow you fish. I don't care whatever you do. You can't get away from that heat. When you get into the shade, or supposedly shade, the radiation from the wood, pushes out on you. So you don't get any relief whatsoever. Not a breath of wind, nothing. And so you're literally in a swamp in Louisiana, 115, 120 degrees. It was miserable. And so we fished as long as we could. And we did whatever we could. I wound up, scoring like a 17-inch bass or something like that. And other than that, I tried to catch another one, and I had to DQ the fish because of my stupid butt. But I mean, it was nothing. But again, it was not enough to do anything. But I definitely want to go back. I definitely want to go back in the fall. When it's fishable, more fishable, and see what that lake's all about. It would be a lot of fun.
Okay. Go ahead, Marcus.
Well, I was just gonna say I got 5 minutes till I got to be back at work. So, any other questions
All
you
right.
got, Bobby?
I got one last question. With the amount of time that you have spent talking to everybody on your trip, I'm pretty sure this question has come up, and this is no disrespect to any of the other guys that are doing this, but where do you see uh, kite fishing come next year? Who's going to survive? Who do you think's not going to survive?
Hmm. Man,
Oh,
what I think it's gonna come down
I,
to. Go ahead, Greg.
I lost Greg.
I lost Greg too. I don't know what happened. I lost Greg's audio. I can't hear him either. Well, I'll give you my point of it, Bobby. I really I'm not 100% sure on that one. I mean, it's a tough question to answer. Really, what I think it just comes down to is support from the anglers for each and every every brand. So that's just one of those things. It's going to depend on who which anglers can what anglers can do for KBF and for Hobie and for KBBT. That's really what it's going to come down to. It's in the angler's hands. So it's just a hard question to answer. I don't want to put that demon on anybody. At the end of the day, hopefully everybody survives.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't wish. Oh, there we go. We got you back, Greg.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Got
sir.
you now, buddy.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I had a call come in and ruin everything up. But yeah, we talked. I talked to a lot of different anglers about this, and look, KBF is the top series or the top live event series and everything else. I mean, people are concerned about where KBF is going, if they're going to survive. I think Hobie has to hit some numbers consistently. I think they have to be around 80 to 100 on average throughout the year. If they don't do that, I don't know how much Hobie is going to wind up supporting that series. Now, interesting enough, I mean, this is all business standpoint, but Old Town Canoe tried to go in, and the Johnson group try to go in there and purchase Hobie, which kind of threw up a lot of red flags to us. I mean, to me, if Hobie's for sale and the deal's good enough, well, where does that leave Hobie as a series? You know what I mean? Or Hobie as a company? Look, any business is up for sale, 100% at any time. But with Hobie going through that, threw up a lot of red flags, with the series itself. Now, AJ is one of the best tournament directors in the nation. AJ McWater is, I think, he's the standard of what it means to run a series. He takes care of his anglers. He knows how to put on a series. It would be a shame if Hobie disappears, but I do think they're going to survive. Now, I'm not so Bass. I don't know. I think Bass or Bassmasters, Hulk Bassmasters, they need to go outside the Midwest. I think for them to do any growing, they can't just center around the Midwest. They need to go out and expand. So if I was to take a guess, this is just me talking, but I think KBF actually goes away. I hate to say it, but I think in 2 years, I don't think you're going to see KBF, or it's going to look way different. I don't know about Bass either. I think Hobie survives, but I don't know about Bass either. So I think, I think the standing series is out there. It's going to look way different from between now and 2 years. It might be another series called something else, but live events have changed, and people with discretionary income who can't afford now to go out and spend $2,000 or $2,500 to go to a live event, spend a week on time, because a lot of employers are really restricting when people can go and when people can't go. And as you know, Bobby, a lot of the anglers and outdoorsmen here are either government, which they're putting restrictions on, and or military, which they're not allowing people to go outside a certain radius. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough to see what happens with these guys. It really is.
Well,
Okay, well, I know we're running short on time for Marcus. Mine, I think, done the same thing yours did. I had a call try to come in as we were talking, so we'll go ahead and cut it short. We'll go ahead and cut it short today. I hope y'all have a great day, and definitely great talking to you guys about your trip. So if y'all got anything final you want to say, go right ahead, because I can't hear you anyway because it's coming through my speaker on my telephone.
no problem. Well, thank you, Bobby. Greg, it's always a pleasure, homie. Thank you guys for the experience. And, like I said, I look forward to the next one, and, look forward to this weekend as well. We'll just have to see what happens.
Yep. We'll see you guys later.
You guys have a good day. Thanks, Bobby.
All righty, sir.